book one I was all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She is a trauma survivor and mental health advocate, as well as an author and the author of several books, no other than Miss Carolyn Sherrow.
Hello, Daniel. It's good to be here.
Welcome, welcome, Miss Carolyn. Book one review, and can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Well, I never really thought I'd become a writer. I started out working as an ambulance EMT. After that, I became a PA. You know what that is? Physician
Yes.
assistant.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a master's in medicine, except they don't get we don't get paid as much as the doctors do. So I worked there for 23 years. So I've spent a total of about 26, 27 years of my life working in medicine. And my degrees, of course, were in science. So how I came into writing was I kind of uh, did some articles and some short stories and such like that for several years. And then I felt, well, then I took my mom in after she had a stroke, and I didn't write at all for almost 4 years. And then after I recovered from the grief after she died, I felt like I should get back into the writing. And I had about 5 projects in my mind, not knowing what I should do first. And then I felt like it was the website update and the memoir that needed to start with.
Hmm. Well, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Carolyn. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And today, let's talk about the writing process of all your books. Across all your books, what is the central burning question about human experience that you find yourself consistently drawn to explore, even the characters and settings change dramatically?
All of my books, fiction and nonfiction, tend to gravitate toward cults and what happens to people when they are being accessed by a cult and how they get out of it. Nobody can really leave a cult except with help. And my first novel, which isn't out yet, it'll be out in a few months, has to do with a lady who is being accessed by a cult. She's also dissociative and she has no idea what's going on because she was programmed. And her people, her new circle of friends, help her to escape from that, from the hospital where she has landed because she tried to kill herself. She was so confused and depressed and all the things you associate with a suicide attempt. So that's the first novel. The second novel, which will be out in, all I can say is before the end of the year, has to do with uh, demon possession or demonization. And it's the story of Dr. Kate, who goes to Kenya. She and her Ethiopian Jew counterpart on a medical mission trip get captured by Islamic terrorists. And I explore a lot of things in that atmosphere. And then the third one has to do with witchcraft. And the people from the first book are stranded on an island in the Caribbean, and all sorts of weird things happen. So,
Interesting. Go ahead,
so
Miss Carolyn.
I was going to. So the thrust of all my books is basically recovering from trauma, whether it's supernatural or psychological.
How do you, or how has your fundamental perspective as a writer, the core lens through which you see your characters and the world, shifted from your first book to your most recent? What life experiences force that lens to widen or sharpen?
Hmm. I think that My first book was a memoir, and it came out about a year ago. I still write from that perspective that I showed in the memoir, but now it's my experiences and my further learning has widened my lens. I see more uh, of the world through it, and the characters are deeper than they used to be. They're more well rounded.
Well, around that, for sure. If a literary scholar were to study your collected works, what two to three themes would they identify as your fingerprint?
Okay, the first would be recovery from trauma, whether physical, psychological, or spiritual. My PDFs, which we're looking at right now, are collected from blog posts, and they all have to do with emotional and spiritual growth. And that would be my next hallmark. After that would be how to set boundaries and how to forgive people and how to release your rage um, at what has happened through forgiving all those people.
Interesting. Miss Carolyn, which of your books serve as a pivotal point in your career or self understanding as a writer? In what way did writing fundamentally alter your approach to the craft?
I would have to say that would be my memoir because I had to write it in not chronological order, but topically. And what I did, and that was because so much of it happened so long ago, I don't really remember it. But my uh, first part of it is strictly memoir, telling my story, what happened, how I got through it. After that, it goes into the aspects of being dissociative. Um, for example, shame, pain, fear, all of those things that dissociative people feel, they can't usually quite identify them. They just know they're different and they feel bad. So, um, writing about all that, although I was very much healed by then, writing about it helped clarify it in my mind so that I could share it with others. Because the reason I wrote the book was not for my own catharsis and my own recovery, it was to help other people. My goal is to bring hope and healing to people who have experienced severe trauma, especially those who have been dissociative.
Let's talk about the process and evolution, Ms. Carolyn. How has your process for catching the initial spark of a new book evolved? Did you or do you now trust certain methods more than you did when you started?
Okay, I think I'll start with saying that when I write, I've always written short stories in nonfiction, but I found out with writing my memoir that you have to use fiction techniques to write nonfiction. Otherwise, it becomes boring and people will put the book down. Just like, I don't, I'm not going with this, I'm bored. Um, Another thing I learned is to personalize some of it and some of it not, because personalizing it, it helps people realize that you're not just making this up, you're not just writing, you actually have lived it, and you actually um, are speaking to them, to their hearts. I had several of my friends tell me that they loved it because they could hear my voice in reading my book.
Interesting, Ms. Caroline. And your first draft isn't your raw material. How has your personal editing philosophy, your approach to transforming that chaotic first draft into a finished novel matured? What do you know to cut or amplify now that you didn't then?
Honestly, I don't write first drafts. I write drafts that are about in third or fourth level because I don't think that way. I don't think in draft form. It's really kind of interesting. And so I don't use outlines. I don't study other people's methods so much. But I will say that having the book written, it changed my, or having written it, what I had to do was to go back through my counselor's notes about our sessions and use those for research. And that's where I got a lot of the personal stuff. He had an amazing method of taking notes on his laptop while we were in session, and then he'd give me copies of the session notes. I still have 6 3 or 4 inch notebooks of them. That's a lot of notes that I had to go through, but it really helped to narrow my my focus to what I really needed it to be.
So, Miss Carolyn, you create characters who feel alive. How has your technique of or for building a character from inside out developed? Do you start in a different place now or than you did with your earliest protagonists?
You're talking about my fiction characters, I assume.
Yes, please.
Okay. And I try to go with what they call deep point of view, which is in essence where you become the character while you're writing. Doesn't matter what they're like, what gender they are, anything. It matters what you feel about that character, that you feel what they feel. And that's really how my characters have evolved. I used to write more shallowly, and now I can get into the character. I have learned how to become the character. And that really helps to make it deep and real.
So, how do you So, yes, let's talk about the sounds of silence, Miss Carolyn. How do you now handle the inevitable muddy middle or periods of profound doubt in a project? What tools or mantras have you developed that your younger, less experienced writing self did not have?
You said doubts.
Yes, please.
Okay. Every writer experiences doubt, from all the way to the imposter syndrome to why am I doing this? I don't know what I'm doing. And this is not going to work, that sort of thing. I honestly deal with doubts in several ways. One of them is to call a friend and say, hey, am I doing the right thing here? Because I have no idea what I'm doing. Or talking to my writing mentor who lives in, where does she live? Tennessee. And she's been very, very encouraging and giving me hope and giving me hints on how to do things like that. One thing I do too when I'm having doubts about the project that I'm working on, I go work on another project, whether it's a short story or my next novel and it's in draft form, and I take the character a little further, just to get away from the setting where you are at that point. That really helps you to push your doubts aside. And then of course I pray a lot.
Indeed, pray without ceasing, people. So let's talk about the routine versus the ritual, Miss Carolyn.
I'm sorry, the
How
routine versus what?
the ritual.
The
The
ritual.
ritual. Yeah, the
Oh,
ritual
okay.
itself.
Okay.
So, how's your daily writing practice solidified into a non negotiable routine, or has it become more fluid and intuitive?
Actually, it's a little of both. I try to sit down at the computer by about 10 in the morning. I'm not a morning person, so my morning starts later. Um, and start with revisions. Often it's the revisions from the day before, from what I wrote the day before. And then I go from there. And if I need to do some research, I fit that in there as well, because honestly, most of the writing you can't do without a little bit of research here and there. Um, and the rest of it is all intuitive and on the fly, so to speak, because I do have a life outside writing.
Like that, Miss Carolyn, on the fly. So, as a trauma survivor, mental health advocate, as well as an author, what are your short term and long term goals?
Well, my short term goal is to, like I said, bring hope to people with my novel, also with my website. I have written about a dozen PDFs, and they all offer hope as well. Um, my most immediate goal is to finish the second novel because the first one is with the editor now, so I have to move on. Long term, I would like to create some more novels. Uh, I don't know. I have another one in my mind that isn't going anywhere yet, but time will come. And I would like to be able to speak to crowds, whether it be a counseling class or a book club or whatever. I would like to be able to speak to them and say, here, this is what you may run into. This is what I dealt with. Because honestly, I have a friend who's a licensed professional counselor, and he tells me that in their training, they're told about dissociation, but they're told that it's very rare and they'll probably never see a case. Well, it's not really all that rare, I found out. In my research, I found that it's estimated that 2% of the population of this country is dissociative or has some level of dissociation beyond the basic everybody's got it. And I did the math, and that turns out to be well over 6 million people. I want to be able to reach those people because chances are they don't even know they're dissociative. They've blocked it all out. All they know is that they feel bad. And if I can help them to realize this is what happened, you're not crazy, I would dearly love to be able to do that. And I get that phrase because I've had several people comment on my book with reviews or a letter to me on my website. And a lot of times they say, thank you so much for writing this book. Now I know I'm not crazy. Those are the people that I'd love to hear from. And that's the group that I'm trying to reach.
Good luck to your goals, Miss Carolyn, and looking forward for more success. And what will be a piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
Like me? You mean a writer?
Yes, please.
I would say several things. Number one, uh, don't be too hard on yourself. Everybody fails, everybody has false starts. And number two, study, study, study. I didn't take writing classes in college. I learned my craft through attending conferences. I have been going to writers' conferences for about 30 years, and I learned a whole lot. And at those conferences, you can pick and choose what classes you want to listen to go to, whether it's in your field, in your genre, or another one you just want to explore. And then you get to network there too. All of that helps develop you as a writer. And also, I hate to say this because it's kind of counterintuitive, but don't worry about getting an agent. There's many other ways to get published now without getting an agent. And if you don't find the right agent, it's not a comfortable relationship. It's like a marriage that's headed for divorce.
Well, very well said, Miss Carolyn, and thank you for that empowering advice. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
That influences my writing.
Yes,
Um,
please.
okay. Well, there's there's one in particular that really isn't available except through the Restoration in Christ Ministries website, and that is by, here it is, Tom Hawkins. He's the founder of that ministry. His book is called Dissociative Identity Disorder: Recognizing and Restoring the Severely Abused. That helped me so much in my writing and in my healing. Oops. Another one would be, uh, it's called, it's by Kinzer or Zinzer, and it's called On Writing Well. It's how to write nonfiction. And then there was another one called Living from the Heart Jesus Gave You. And it's from James Wilder, who writes a lot about the psychological aspects of healing. Those three really did help me with my writing the memoir.
Very well said, Miss Carolyn. And thank you for the recommended books. Writers often face pressure to repeat successful formula. When you have made a deliberate, perhaps risky choice to change genres, styles, and themes between books, what gave you the courage and what did you learn?
What gave me the courage to change genres is it just seemed like it was the time to do it because I had written nonfiction and fiction before. But to switch back to fiction, the courage was honestly from a writer instructor I talked to. And I asked him about it. I said, am I still going to be able to write fiction? Because I wrote this nonfiction and it was really hard. And he said, yes, you've got the skills to do both. Okay, thank you. The other thing would be that I really don't go by routines or expectations. I go by what I feel. And I felt like this is the time to go write those novels again. Well, I should say rewrite the novels because they were already written, but not taken care of, if you know what I mean. So that's kind of my process.
Oh, thank you for that process, Miss Caroline. But before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please don't listen to my other podcast, people, because my Abstract Essay is already in sixth season, Abstract Poetry in third season, and of course, my book 101 review in sixth season as well, Comedy 101 in third season, and my food 101 in sixth season as well, Geography 101, Love Letters, Movie 101 review, Music 101 are in fifth season, the Science 101, Sex 101, fourth season, Spiritual Awakening 101, Trivia 101, Law 101, Mental Health 101, Motivation 101, Entrepreneurship 101, and of course, my Bible Verses 101 on my baby podcast. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Caroline, if you had to name the central creative tension that energizes all your work, is it between hope and despair, memory and the present, and individual and society, or something else entirely?
Well, I'd have to say all of the above, but the first one, despair versus hope, that would be the most common one.
Awesome, awesome. Then, so Miss Carolyn, can you please invite our listeners to support all your books, your business, or anything you want to promote on Book 101?
All right. The name of my the name of my website is chordsofgrace.com. And I would like to direct that to people who are interested in my book because the link to the book is right there. It'll take you straight to Amazon and other online resources. I would like to recommend also that you go to rcm-usa.org. That's the Restoration in Christ Ministries website, and they have a tremendous amount of helpful information for people who are trying to heal.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Carolyn Sherrow, because if you support her, for sure more and more empowering books like this to rise. More and more empowering advocacy will be implemented. So I have one more question, Miss Carolyn. If you could send one message back through time to the author who was finishing their very first manuscript, what would it be?
Don't give up. Revise, 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 and have faith in your work.
Yes, people, don't give up. And, well, stop procrastinating. If you have the passion to write, and share to the world, just like Miss Carolyn Sherrow. So, Miss Carolyn, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Maricon people, see you soon.